mean, his story was he entered a competition once and they rejected his photo because he said he was professional, which he felt was good because
photographer.
Yeah, because he was on all those pictures he took of him as a baby.
So you've got photos of when you were in Calcutta?
Yeah.
Yeah. And somewhere we've got photos of the 3 boys in Calcutta when we went for a trip.
Oh yes, you see, I came across that, but you didn't tell me. There's books and books and books down there.
I've been 2 days on this, and I've mentioned to you.
You didn't tell me about the 3 boys.
Well, just do what you got. It doesn't matter if you miss a few things. It's just the
afterwards.
But we've done such a lot.
Yeah, we can talk about that, and also you can do the conversation and find the photograph later. Like Donna's giving herself months to do this project.
Oh, is she?
This will go over a few months. I expect, as Greg's saying, and it probably will be. I'm not going to get everything into one hit from you, which is why seriously, Pat, you could go and lie down and really.
No, I don't want to say anything.
and also I said to Donna that their anniversary is in July. So I was going to do it for that.
I'm going to aim for July.
So we're aiming for July. So we've got tons of time. It's all very casual.
Absolutely.
Is that 60 years?
No, 59.
But
December is 60
I'm not
years.
waiting.
1 year out.
And also, this is Emma's laptop.
Where do you want to be?
Well, wherever you're comfortable, here is fine. That's cool, because I need to write down things as we go. You're okay with it being taped as we're going along?
Yeah.
Yeah, because what will happen is having it taped is a lot easier for me to then go back and.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that'd be a nightmare.
Yeah.
We're going to stay here.
Do you need to sit down somewhere more comfortable?
I'm looking to see where I can get a bit of crayon.
You'll get your good area here.
No, sit down.
Sit there.
Oh, well, that's not so bad. I'll be able
I'll
to
just have a
look through
quick tea and then I'm going.
What's happening? Where are you going?
I'm going to go to Carindale and we're going to pick up Beck.
She's with Ben.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
That we guess.
And what's Daniel doing?
He went out last night and was sleeping.
Until mid-afternoon.
Decadence.
Yeah. Cool. So have you got that recording, have you now?
Yeah, I'll just record that for mine.
That's what I've got.
You're going to use that, are you? Off there?
Can I look at your mother's book and just to get ideas as to...
Yeah, I had a look at this one. I just thought it was very, very good. So I thought
just
that's what I thought of you guys.
Look up for my glasses. I think it must be there. You know, it's with the chain.
With the chain.
Golden black chain.
Did you get a glass of water?
Yep, I've got one. I'm sitting.
No, that's black, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, that's television.
Here comes the rain.
Isn't there another one there? Yes. Your mother keeping in good health?
She's really good. She lives by herself up in the crow's nest, down Toowoomba. And she's cruising on the meals on wheels and all sorts of things. So yeah, she is. She's getting good things nutrition now.
Yeah.
She's having to slow down.
Yeah. I discovered sometime in October, we went to be 3 times this year to the South, North Island. Mary could see my daughters, and we went into the South Island, finished off New Zealand again. And after that, in October, I started to, That's a nice picture. How do you pronounce it?
English. Yeah, English. Very English.
So where are you going to be?
I might actually sit over here. So with Pat sitting down here, that way we'll the tape recorder will pick up my voice. Okay.
That will pick up the sounds anywhere, will it?
Her mother's
These
birthday.
have a fair range.
Gregory?
Yeah.
Mother's birthday is on the 15th of March.
Ah,
Day
there you
before
go.
yours.
Yes, I passed on a message to Donna that you are more than willing to be used as testimonial
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait and see how it turns
Yeah,
out.
that's right.
Yeah.
Make sure you're happy with it.
Yes, you see, they've got the like old-fashioned pictures of,
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
your grandparents.
Yeah, so I'll scan them all in and make them look good. The other things that are in there are, I'll show Pete before, over the page there. There's a card, right there, you can send in birthday cards, letters, and all sorts of things like that. Yeah. Because that's really quite nice to see to Alice from a loving and home sweetheart.
Well, I wouldn't get that for video now.
You might
don't put that in.
You might get it from Greg though.
Yeah,
Might
we would.
send you something nice on
He's
Mother's
very
Day.
good.
Yeah, he's very good. And his children, they have.
All our children are fairly normal compared to us.
Like you lead a pretty amazing life. It's really exciting.
Yeah, well,
There's the three boys.
Yeah. So that's Mum's father, brothers,
Have you got
three.
a camera? And
downstairs.
that's right. That I'll get going.
Right.
Oh, so I take it you came in your own car.
Oh yeah.
Donna.
Yeah, Donna. Yeah.
I want to see Jenny. Why Jenny?
I haven't been called a Jenny before. No. Yeah, that was fun. So what I thought we'd do is probably start off with, it depends on what you want out of it. What do you want recorded? It's probably the best question for the start. What do you want? Do you want it to go from when you were young in
Yeah.
England and
Yeah.
I think
Calcutta?
so.
Just,
Yeah.
briefly.
It needn't be detailed, but it'd be nice if it was in there.
I think the more detailed it is, because from my perspective, those young years, from my mum and listening to where you've been and what you've done, are really interesting. Really, really interesting.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Is that what she was doing? Doing the vegetable patch?
yeah.
I don't know why I couldn't.
Yeah. So starting off in the younger years, as you're growing up, in Calcutta and in England, and then through the war. So maybe if we concentrate on that first stuff and see how you go, you may end up feeling like that's enough along the way and say, okay, that's it, or we can take it like that if you like.
To me, like I've never seen that before, but if anybody were reading it, our life story, to me it's important to bring in little side things that happen. I mean, there might be the main story, but then a little incident might happen, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Absolutely.
So I would tend to bring that in, but if
Yeah.
you don't choose to use anything like that, it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah.
I just felt it fills out the big picture. Sort of.
I think it does. I think you're absolutely right. And I think the other thing that's really good is giving the context, like World War II, like the blitz that you were in, a little bit of a background, which I can put in there myself, a bit of a background on the blitz, just in a couple of sentences or whatever. So people have that context when they read it and understand what it was. Exactly.
Yeah, someone that went through that, sure.
Because I did a little bit of research myself before I came here, and like the blitz, I didn't realise that how many nights was it that it went on for?
Blitz.
It was started in 1940, September 1940, and there were 57 consecutive nights of bombing.
Yeah, and to further aggravate it, in my case, I was also in Liverpool when they had the Liverpool Blitz. As you know, Liverpool's a dockyard.
Yeah.
And the Germans came over the first night and set light to everything.
Yeah.
And then for the next 7 nights, they just honed in on that area and bombed them. What they might have it.
Yeah.
So there was 2 things there, but it's just a bit unfortunate. I was in both places.
Well, that is pretty unlucky. Well, what we might do then, if you're ready, is we'll start off then
Okay.
with yourself, Pete, and from when your earliest memories, and you can tell me about where you were born and go through your childhood years and that sort of thing, if that's all right. And maybe talk about your parents first. So,
Donna, what's the significance of this two killed in car crashes down?
Oh, okay. See, my mum, when she lost her dad when she was about 9 to a heart attack, and then her mum and a mum's friend. Her mum and a mum's friend and my mother and a brother are in a car going down a range at the back of back in Nambour, and the car went over the range when she was 12 at the time, and her mum and a mum's friend were killed in the car. So it's really a significant event.
Yeah.
She became an orphan
This
then.
is your grandmother this happened to.
Yeah. So mum became an orphan then, and she still has a newspaper clipping from that. So.
Oh, I see.
Put that in.
Just give some text to finishing up. I'll come back over.
Okay.
I've got to return some stuff to them.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. See ya.
See you, Greg. Thanks for coming.
All right. So.
Well, I'll just do it as I think.
Yeah. So from when you were born.
Yeah.
Where were you born first up?
Okay. Well, I was born in Liverpool, England.
Are you going to tell all about the horrible details of,
Some and some not. I'll gloss over a lot of it.
For instance, if you call them a basket, it's right.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you'll have your turn.
Now, what are you reminding you?
So, I was born in England in 1927. And I was born into a dysfunctional family.
Well, many of us are. I can tell you. I've had an interesting one too.
For instance, I left school at 13, and had a few handicaps. Number one was at 0 age, I was sent to North Wales to live under the care of a schoolgirl, 15, cousin.
When you say 0, you're only a couple of months old?
No,
right?
as soon as you were born.
As soon as I was born, because I was a bit of an embarrassment to my mother.
Well, okay.
It'll come in. So the handicaps I'd had at 13 was that I had no father ever at home. I was of Irish descent. Irish are always considered a bit thick. I was uneducated, and we were dirt poor.
Yeah.
And then, the other thing was I was illegitimate. So from that time, I had a number of jobs in England, just non-jobs, you'd say, because I wasn't able to produce any educational qualification anyway.
So when you said that you went over to Wales in the care of a 15-year-old schoolgirl, how long were you over there?
Till I was about 3. Okay. In fact, I can remember coming back to my mother's place when I was about 3. And at that time we were living in London. We never really lived in Liverpool that much.
Do you remember much of that time in Wales? Were you up till 3?
No, nothing at all.
No memories of that?
No.
Yeah.
It's all a bit of a blur trips as well, probably.
And how did they find the 15-year-old schoolgirl to look
up? It was my cousin.
Your cousin?
Yeah, we had... my mother's sister lived in Rhyl, which is on the coast of North Wales. And we had several trips up there and holidays and one another.
Okay.
And you should mention that your stepfather, wherever he was way most of the time because he was a steward on the Queen Mary.
Yeah.
So he was months away.
It wasn't Queen Mary.
So that his mother could play.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
So after 3, then you were at Wales, and then you came back to London with your mother, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. And whereabouts in London did you live?
Hounslow, which is Middlesex,
That's H-O.
west.
H-U-N-S-L-O-W.
Quite close to London Airport, actually.
Okay. And you're with your mum there. Did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had a half brother
Yeah.
and a half sister.
Yeah.
Now, as I say, I don't know whether all this jazz should be in or not, but briefly, my mother was married to this guy, Wood, who was at sea. He wasn't a Queen Mary, it was Berengaria or something. Queen Mary was, no. I think it was Berengaria ship. Anyway, he was a chief steward, so there's no shortage of money. But my mother ended up with 3 children, with 3 separate fathers, none of which was her husband.
Yeah. So when she married,
she was ahead of her time, actually.
yeah, she was, wasn't she? So when she married, what was the name? Wood? What was his first name?
Albert.
Albert. When she married Albert Wood, then.
Yeah, my birth certificate is the name of Albert Wood.
Wood. So he wasn't your dad.
No.
No.
And I never even met him.
Yeah.
And the other funny thing was that I never actually met my biological father until I was about 28.
Yeah, 1954.
When we were ready to leave London to migrate on that trip.
Oh,
That's when I met him.
Yeah.
Because my mother was in touch with him.
Oh.
But he'd never come to the house, nothing. So,
Well,
you know.
he was paying support for you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a big thing then. That he was paying support, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he had 3 factories.
He was a rich man.
Quite rich, yeah. I've got pictures of the Jaguar he ran. And he was a tool maker, so a very skilled professional. He had the contract for the whole of the Hornby Double-O was a train set that Keats played with, and the track for that Hornby Double-O, he had the sole contract for the whole thing. Hornby, of course, is in Liverpool, you see, and that's the connection. But he was pretty well heeled.
Yeah. So your mum and your dad then kept in contact, but never came around.
But yeah, that was all.
And Albert Wood, you never saw. Did you see anything?
Never saw him.
Never saw him.
You must have seen it because when he came, but you were too young, and he came and said, "Who is this?" And the sister said, "That's our Peter." And because that's when he twigged that this was, and that's when he started ready for a divorce, you see.
Oh, so your mum was married to Albert Wood.
Yeah.
But then she went and had an affair with your dad.
3 blokes.
With 3 different boys. Wow. Okay.
So I had a half brother, half sister, and myself.
And then you had another half brother.
And then I had another half brother
from Mr. Atkins.
From my biological father, who now lives in Nova Scotia. I corresponded with him. But we didn't know of each other's existence.
Okay.
Honestly, it's very involved.
It is very involved. It's very interesting. So what was your dad's name?
Thomas.
W.T. Atkins. I've got letters over there in the book.
W.T.
So I think it's William Thomas Atkins.
He was known as Thomas.
Yeah.
And
Peter, of course, is not Peter. His real name is Thomas Atkin Wood.
Yeah, the Atkin was put in by my mother, you see, for old time's sake.
So your name's actually Thomas Atkin.
Thomas Atkin Wood, yeah.
And the Peter is not
official. It's just a nickname, and I adopted it.
Okay. All right. That is a very interesting one. So, got some background there. Your dad sounds like a very interesting character, without a doubt. So, but we can move on a bit. So, at 3 years, you came back to London, and you lived with your mum in London.
My grandmother also.
Okay.
She was,
Murphy. I noticed I got in your book one of those things, Murphy, on the.
yeah, her name, the grandmother's name was Murphy.
So the half brother and half sister, were they older or younger than you?
Older. I was the baby.
You were
My
The sister was 15 years older and the brother was 7 years older.
yeah. Somebody commented that she was a bit like an elephant. Had an offspring every 7 years. Hope the elephants do that.
Okay. That is a fair difference in age, isn't it?
Oh yeah. My brother never really lived at home much with us. He got married and went. And my sister also. In fact, she was hardly ever there. She was married and off.
So you really grew up as an only child,
That's right.
pretty much?
Yeah.
Okay. So back when you were in London then, so 3 years, you'd just come back living with your mum and your grandma there. What was that like that time? Do you remember much there?
Well, nothing much happened, as I say, until I left school. It was just school days. It was a pretty rough old school. It was just a state school. We never had, I don't think they ever heard of second language or Shakespeare or anything tricky like that. And the other thing was, you see, when I was 13, it was 1940. So the war had been on a little while, and the Blitz. And quite a large proportion of the time, school time, we were in the air raid shelters, you see, because of the air raids. Every time the siren went, we all trooped out.
Yeah.
So, the education side of it was very scanty.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Although I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my school days.
And what did you enjoy about them?
Well, I suppose the company, mixing with the other kids, that sort of thing. And I don't know, I was always very active, and I used to be the first at school in the morning and last to leave at night, because there was more interesting things happening at school than at home, you see.
Yeah, being an only child without other kids around.
That's right.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, those years just disappeared. I don't know. The only thing I did remember when I was about 12 was that the Blitz was on, and we could hear the siren would go, and we'd go into the coal cellar to shelter. And you could hear these bombers going over the driving. And that wasn't so bad. Sometimes you heard the odd one. But what was one of the worst experiences I had with, we had an army place next door to us where soldiers were living. And they had an anti-aircraft gun, mobile.
What?
A mobile anti-aircraft gun.
So it was on
Came in a
wheels.
big truck.
Oh, okay.
And it would draw up outside our house. And of course, we didn't know. And all of a sudden, it would let fly. And honestly, I think that the days had come to an end. It was such a terrible noise.
So a big boom.
That was one of the features that I remember Britain. But on the way to school, we used to pick up shrapnel that had descended overnight and swap bits of interesting shrapnel at school, because they're all jagged bits. It'd kill you if it came down on you.
And I read that there were lots of unexploded bombs.
Yes,
around as
we
well.
used to see trucks. These guys, very brave. You'd see a truck go past with a bomb in the back, and there were two guys sitting on it.
Oh, no.
What a big bomb! And of course, we all rationed. We had ration cards, identity cards, and we had to, is that thing still done?
Yeah, it's just the screensaver's gone off.
We had to, what was I
We're talking about ration cards. an identity
Oh,
card.
I know. We had to carry a gas mask, which we never ever used except in practice. So we all had a little box like that on a string, and it was mandatory that you carried it everywhere. It's a damn nuisance.
Mm.
Um,
So
but
you,
I never thought anything of it. Just accepted it.
so what was it like when you went to the shelters? How did you pass your time away?
Mostly the teacher would read
Yeah.
stories. That was all they could do really, because there wasn't even any proper lighting in there. The ones at our school.
Yeah.
So it was all just a waste of time. Really.
And how long would you be in there?
Normally perhaps 2 hours while the bombers went over, and then they'd circle around and mess around and turn back. So it was never very long. And overnight, we did have a shelter in one house we lived in, an underground shelter. It was called an Anderson shelter, and the government provided them. And it was partly underground. And when we were in there one night, we had a bomb. You've been to the UK, haven't you?
Oh, yeah, London briefly. Yeah.
Anyway, the gardens are very, very small. And the house was there, the shelter was there, and the back fence was not far. A bomb landed just over the back fence. They had a whole lot of greenhouses raising tomatoes and stuff. And this bomb went straight into those. You've never seen such a mess. It was glass all over the place. Yeah. And we heard it all right, but it wasn't a very big bomb, frankly. But it was close.
Yeah, that was the closest that you came.
There used to be quite a number of direct hits on air raid shelters. Sometimes like a couple of hundred people in there. Terrible.
And the air raid shelters just sheltered you, I guess, if you were a distance from them. If it does a direct hit, it's not going to.
A lot of them, the ones in the streets that you'd be ushered into, were just like a brick house. This double brick, solid, but of course if you had a direct hit, you wouldn't have a chance.
No. So you were actually living in quite a few houses, were you?
We had so many houses. We used to rent them all, you see. There was no money. And once they moved, and I went back to the wrong house. Instead of going to the new house, I went to the old one. So we must have had a dozen or more time, and even beyond when I left school over the years, just different places. I still remember them. I still remember some of the addresses in Hounslow. Always Hounslow.
Okay, and so it was Hounslow and then to Liverpool.
Yeah.
Well, he was born in Liverpool, and therefore that's when she must have given you to the cousin.
Yeah, Wales.
And then she came to London.
Yeah, but we used to go back for visits to Liverpool.
Yeah.
Doggies. And it was during one of those visits they had that 8-day blitz on Liverpool, which we went through.
So you were there for the whole 8 days during the Liverpool blitz as well.
It was exciting. But, people tended to just get on with it. Like I laugh, you get some little incident here and they have all the psychologists in to interview people and their kids. And the kids don't need all that. You just cope with it.
Very resilient.
Right?
Very resilient.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
So, does that cover that?
Yeah. Was there anything, I guess, with your half brother and sister? So you didn't see much of them when you were growing up at all?
No, my brother lived with us. My half brother lived with us for probably a couple of years. Billy. And then he got married and as usual, my mother fell out with his wife, so there was never any more contact whatsoever.
Fell up with his sister's husband, who was very good. Well, didn't like me.
Yeah,
Blooming foreigner.
it's the Irish, you see, they sort of aggressive.
I got Irish in me too.
Yeah.
So I,
Yeah, we're all a bit of a mix, I think.
Yeah.
So he fell out with his sister's husband, so you didn't see much of your half sister either.
No, she lived quite close to us, and I did used to see a bit of her. Not that she was living with us, but she had a job managing a sweet shop. Lollies, you know, we call them sweets. You know, it was on the way home from school, and I'd regularly call in there and get sweets.
For free?
For free, of course. Yeah, I remember that.
and you saw more of your sister even than latterly, you know, after you got married and all that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he said, I want you to meet my sister, but be careful, she's a
Lady dog.
lady dog. I never say use that word, I say lady dog. And she was quite all right, but after that it was all downhill.
Yeah, she was a bit beautiful.
Yeah. The accommodation that you were in, you said you rented, you moved around about 12,
Yeah.
13 times. What sort of accommodation was it? How would you describe it?
Always 3-bedroom houses,
Okay.
and she had her own furniture.
Bungalows, wasn't it? It wasn't 2-story, it was usually 1-story bungalows.
Now, some of them were 2-story. The ones in Lambton Road and Tiverton Street, it was all 2 stories. And, they're all substantial houses, and of course rents probably weren't very expensive in those days anyway.
Mm.
But
She mustn't have been doing too badly then financially to be able to have 3-bedroom houses.
Yeah. Well, as Peter
I
said,
think the
she
rents
was a
were cheap.
spender.
Right?
She was a spender. She couldn't hold on to money, you know.
No.
That's why.
Don't forget. Yeah, she was getting an income from my real father.
Yeah.
Because the court case was, and he admitted that I was conceived in Paris, in France,
Right.
and he admitted that I was his sort of thing. So he had to give money to my mum. I never knew how much it was, but it must have been a fair bit.
Yeah, it sounds
because
like
he was a wealthy bloke, and and we, you know.
Yes, and in those days, didn't they have any money from the government for children and all that?
I don't think so. I don't think in those days they had.
But she did a bit of work.
She had odd jobs, but she used to smoke. She always, she was a bit of a spender. She used to smoke these Dumorio cigarettes, which was a very exclusive thing. And
sometimes used to delve into your money box.
Yeah.
Oh no.
She was hopeless at money. Yeah, she'd take money from my money box. But
so she worked odd jobs. She didn't have a full-time job. She just did a little bit.
Just
What sort of
mostly,
things?
Just working in a shop once. She was serving in a canteen once for the soldiers during the war. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So back onto you and when you were young, and 13 around about, or a little bit younger. Did you have what sort of games did you play with your friends? What did you do? How did you pass the time with your friends?
This was after 13?
Before 13.
Before 13. No, it was just school. He didn't go into games. He didn't do anything.
No, I never liked sports.
Yeah.
And I was hopeless at running. And I would just, half the time I was good at dodging stuff.
You know what you haven't said is from the age, I don't know what, 10 or something, he used to go out and work. That's how he had got his pocket money. You've forgotten about that.
Oh yeah, that's right, I did forget about it.
How old
Yeah,
were you?
I got a job. We lived in a place where there was very large estates, big houses, and I got a job there. Houseboy it was.
What age?
I would have been about 12,
I thought you were working at 10.
maybe 11, 12, and I used to go in the morning and early, and I had the key, went into this big house, it was an enormous place, and I'd go into the kitchen. First job I had was to light up we call it a boiler. Ideal boiler was called, and it was rigged up to water. And I used to make this fire, which I was good at, and get it roaring away, heating the water. And then I'd have to put the kettle on, wash my hands, put these white gloves on, and get the tray and take up the tea to the husband and wife sitting in the bedroom. Come in, draw the drapes, good morning, all that. Quite funny.
Did you have to wear special clothes? Apart from the white gloves?
No, they were all special clothes. Sometimes I wore a sort of house coat. But Saturdays I used to work in the garden for her, and it was a gardener full time, and I used to assist him. They had a garage with 4 cars in there, big Humber, smaller. And when they went away, I used to get in, open the garage doors, and drive these cars.
Oh, you're joking. At 11? At the age of 11?
Yeah. I knew the basics of it. I didn't drive it on the road, but I'd drive it out on the drive, because it was a big drive, you see. And then I put it all back as it was. And I was always fascinated with cars.
So the gardener didn't catch you? No one
No,
else
it was. I used to do it when he wasn't there. There was nobody there, you see. It was deserted when I had the house.
And the gardener didn't like them anyway. They used to say, she used to come over and she said lunch, and lunch was 2 cups, 1 Bristol cube, cut into half, and hot water thrown, and that was their lunch.
Anybody listening would think we were going to have a big fat lunch. 2 hot cups of water with half a thing. They were tight. I can't remember their names.
Never mind. But the gardener used to use them.
She was a real Scrooge.
But two hot cups of water they give you for lunch. What was the other thing?
Nothing. And the oxen cube, cut into half.
I used to take my own lunch, but she'd say, lunch!
Oh, no. And on these cars, the cars you're talking about, a Hummer, a big, what did you call it? Humber.
That's it. Yes, there was one. We had a program the other day, and this Humber was in it. It was an old British car, very large, black. All cars were black. And I used to drive it out onto the drive, and backwards and forward, just basic stuff.
Even when he was in the military, Air Force, he used to do that.
Yeah.
Driving around
I used to take the truck. Nobody knew, and I'd drive it.
I'd like you to know that none of my sons were like that.
I've got one that's like that.
Taking waves I had. That's right. A lot of the time was spent working, I guess.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Yeah, so I was trying to get a picture of what you did. You went to school, and then you also did this work outside of school.
Yeah.
Was there any other activities you did outside of school?
No. I had a friend. We used to walk around together up there was a roadworks not far from where we were. We used to go up there, and there was trucks we could get into and
here we go again.
Sit in and
there's a theme
pretend
here.
you were driving. You couldn't drive them.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
And also, to get to school, you always had a long walk, didn't you? So
Yeah.
days were like quickly.
Oh yeah, it was an hour's walk from where we were living to the school. And as I say, my sister's shop was halfway. Heston.
Yeah. Heston. Heston's name
It's
is
been
something.
going on for weeks, that thing. It's a 40 burger line.
Hungry Jacks.
Yeah, so I can't remember really much. You see, we never had parties. There's no money for parties or functions.
But your mother wasn't kind in that
It
way.
was-
You didn't have a birthday party or Christmas or anything like that.
Now and again we went to the movies.
Yeah.
That was about the extent of entertainment.
Yeah.
And I can remember we had, you see, there was no television, of course, but there was radio, and Saturday night was a big night for the radio. And the radio set we had operated on a battery, and it was called a wet cell battery. It was a block, like a little block thing like that with liquid in it, acid. And of course it would be exhausted. My job was to take the battery, go to this shop, get the exchange one, and bring back the new battery. That's how it was working.
So what did you listen to? What was on the radio?
There were comedy programs like that Tommy Henry thing. I can still remember some of them quite.
During the war.
There was a thing with Sid somebody's puzzle. They'd tell you a story about this guy driving a truck and he comes over the top of the hill and there's a woman with a baby and then a steep drop the other side, and he had a passenger, and was he going to risk the passenger's life for?
Yep.
Take the woman out?
All old-fashioned stuff.
Oh yeah, it's all just.
And,
we used to enjoy it.
And the singing like Sally. What's that from Liverpool? Sally from the other.
Gracie Fields and all that lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there was plenty of singing entertainment. But nothing much really.
That's probably a good picture of when we're growing up to 13. With the Blitz, because that's a really, really big thing. And, if I was like your grandkids reading back, that's a huge world event, that whole time there.
Yeah.
Is there anything more you can tell me about being in the Blitz, what it was like?
No, when I left school, one of the jobs I had was in the local cinema, and I used to have this uniform. It was bright green pants and a big long coat, green, looked like a leprechaun or something, and I was the doorman, you see.
Yeah.
So of course all my mates I could get in free, and the family, if they wanted to come. And then I did that for a few months, and I was promoted into the projection box, which showed the actual movies, which was better. And at the time, my mother and grandmother were in Wales, and I was on my own in London.
At the age of 13.
Yeah, I would be about, by then I'd be about 13 and a half, under 14 plus. And I hit on the idea, they used to pay us fire watching. You're supposed to be up all night. When the air raid siren went up with a tin hat on the roof. And the idea was, they used to send incendiary bombs down. They'd come down just to thud and phosphorus, and then a fire would ensue. And you'd have train, you were supposed to get the sandbag and put sand on it, and there's a strip, what we call a stirrup, pump water. And you used to get 3 shillings a night for that, you see.
Yeah.
And I hit on an idea. It used to be allocated out, and of course nobody wanted the duty. And I took over the other blokes' duty. And I stayed in that cinema 7 nights a week. Got 21 shillings a week. And you see the sirens, the attacks would never be very long. And I used to bet there was big cane couches in the picture house, and I used to bed down on that to sleep.
Yeah.
No rent, you see.
Yeah.
We had a locker. I had all my gear in the locker, and I can remember I didn't have anybody cook for me, of course, and you used to be able to get this pancake mix.
Oh, you used to cook it?
Yeah, and then there was a little stove where we were, you know, up in the roof. It was just under the roof. There was a little room, and there was a stove in there, and I used to make these pancakes every night.
So you lived on pancakes. So how long was this for? That your mum and your grandma went to Wales, left you by yourself? How long for?
It wasn't very long, and they came back, and then we lived there in near Hounds, Buzzwood, near Hounds, like near where Iris was, and yeah, but it was, as I say, the period I can clearly remember. I used to just stay there and
just a couple of weeks, was it?
It may have been less than a month, I would think, that.
Yeah.
But
and you didn't have any relatives or anyone around looking after you?
Well, my cousin Jim and all that.
Oh yeah, Jim.
We never.
Ashcroft, yeah.
I never belonged to them. Really.
Yeah. So really, for that almost a month, you just lived in the cinema.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm.
So it's a funny time, really.
Yeah.
I can still clearly remember it. Put the tin hat on and go up. We never had any bombs hit the cinema. Of course, it was a big area, the room, and we never really had any trouble. You could see the searchlights would go up and illuminate the plane every now and again.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
I listened to the air raid siren on the laptop. Awful noise.
Haunting, sort of. I can still hear it. There was it used to go to open, and then at the end there'd be just one tone.
Yeah.
Monotone siren telling you it's all over.
Yeah. And that was for about 57 nights in a row they had this happen.
Yeah, I couldn't remember that.
It's a very long time.
Yeah, well, of course, that wasn't the end of it, because when that all finished and the Royal Air Force got hold of the Luftwaffe and they stopped coming over. But then they started later on when I was working. The number one was a buzz bomb, which had like a small plane with wings, no pilot, and it had a what I call a two-stroke motor in it. You could hear it. It just sounded like a motor mower in the sky. And Germans used to time it from Germany and send over the channel, and they time it so that it would land on London.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember one time I was in the street. You got 10 seconds to from the time the motor cut out, you had 10 seconds to take cover. And one came down and the motor stopped, and I was in Twickenham, and this lady, she had a fur coat, and she and I rushed into this doorway and crouched down, as it happened, it was a little way off, and she, Jesus Christ, I think she thought the end of our days had come.
Yeah.
But that was the sort of thing you had to put up with. It was like supposed to be demoralising a bit. But as a young person, it didn't really worry me unduly at all. And then later on, they used to send the V2 was all that was a rocket sent from Germany, fired straight over, and we had one. I worked at Gillette's razor blade company once, and I would have been about 7. Can't remember. 16.
You were up and down in a grocery shop or something.
No, that was cinema. When I was in Gillette's, I can't remember how old I was. But all I know is that one day in broad daylight, this rocket landed on a factory just 2 or 3 factories down. And it was an area where there was all industrial factories, Gillette's, and landed on there, on the factory. Caused a lot of casualties and screaming and carrying on. I broke a few windows in Gillette's, but that was the closest I ever came to those V2s.
You wouldn't hear that coming with the rocket,
No,
did you?
you wouldn't hear it. No. The other thing, at least you got a little bit of warning, and you knew that it. You know, the Air Force, just an aside, those pilots sometimes, the plane was on a set course to London, this little pop-up thing, very slow, you see. These pilots were able to sometimes pull up alongside the plane and with their wing nudge it like you would, and it can send it off course, and of course away from London into the countryside. Very skillful. Just incredible what they used to do.
What did they look like, these buzz things?
They look like a torpedo, I suppose you'd say.
Yeah.
And 2 stubby little wings on it. The whole thing was, you know, I suppose, a little bit longer than this room. And 2 stubby little, and no pilot, of course.
2 rooms or just one?
No, just the length of this, a little bit. They've got one in the museum in Auckland, if you ever go over there. You know, the actual thing, and they've got Spitfires and all sorts of things.
Yeah. So you had your job in the cinema. What did you do after the cinema? What work did you do?
How did you get into
After that, I've worked in several cinemas, and
because he was always very tall for his age, so he could get it when he was thinking he was older.
I think I must have gone to Gillette's.
Yeah.
I was always I used to be very good at maths in school, and I was always interested in numbers and figures. And like in Gillette's, this Chinese lady and we had this race. We had this column of figures. She had her same column, and she used to do it on the machine, and I used to do it mentally, and I beat her.
That's pretty good.
Quite a long. It was just the fact that I was used to it and working at it all the time.
Yeah, natural ability.
All the times I did clerical jobs, including when I joined the airline, was always accounts work. And then when I joined the airline, I went off into a different direction there. But yeah, so, and even now I like doing those Sudoku things.
Yeah, I know Sudoku, yeah, that's pretty good. So you worked in several cinemas, and then you worked in Gillette's.
Yeah.
And what did you do there?
And
there was accounts at Gillette?
Yeah, wages. I used to set up you'd have to, had a big tray, and the factory workers were all paid out in cash. So you have to get all the cash, have the sheets that you made up as to what they were entitled to, and put the notes in there, and then it changed. And then on a tray, and then I'd go down to the factory and pay them all out. So I really enjoyed that. Frankly, I've enjoyed every aspect of my life. From the time in school, Air Force, I was conscripted into the Air Force, and different jobs, and of course, National Airways in New Zealand, that was the best of the lot because I had quite a senior job there.
But you were 18 when you went into the Air Force.
Yeah, I went in on my 18th birthday, 12th of July. I went in a month before the war.
Ended. So we 1945.
And I got a medal.
Really?
You often see it. I've got it downstairs. I can show you. I've often seen it on the television. You see these guys with the medals, and this one was quite distinctive because it was a green and an orange colour and a medallion.
Yeah.
I've still got it.
Yeah. For 1 month's work.
You had to serve at least a month under wartime conditions.
Okay.
I just
got in.
It was quite hilarious.
But I got a little badge, from the Americans.
Yeah, I know. Like wings, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
So, yeah.
So Gillette's, you stayed at your cinemas, working at cinemas, and you went to Gillette's. How long were you at Gillette's for, and what age?
Well,
you must have finished before 18, surely.
No, I think I went I was conscripted into the Air Force when I was 18, and I was in the Air Force for 3 years, and I went back to Gillette's because the regulation, they couldn't say, oh, we don't want you anymore. Yeah, they had to take it back in the same.
Yeah, but didn't you leave and you went into some other firm when I met you? Was that BP or?
That was afterwards.
Yeah,
Shell.
Shell.
So I was, I can't remember the dates, but I was with Gillette for a number of years, and then of course the Air Force was 2 years out of it.
Yeah. So with the Air Force then, you joined 1 month before the war ended. What did you do for the rest of that 3 years?
Well, I went in as a wireless operator, and one of the guys in the course that I was on had to be taken away by 2 blokes in a white suit.
Oh no.
Because the keyboard was the same as this, ASDF, and it was Morse code, and so we have the typewriter with a cover over there, blank, and your fingers underneath, so you couldn't see the numbers to teach you touch style typing. Well, I never really got too involved with that, but most of the time was, the Morse code, like da da da, SOS is da da da, and you have this all 7 hours a day. You go in and it got so that when I was on leave and I'd be in the London Underground just standing there, and there's an advert up there, and instead of reading the letters, I'd be going It was incredible. It was driven into your brain.
You didn't finish about the man being sent away. Why?
Because he couldn't hack it. I think it mentally affected him or something. Yeah. It was a bit demanding, really. But so anyway, of course, bear in mind that the war had ended just after I joined. They decided, I was stationed at Gloucester and on this course, radio operator course, and they decided they didn't need any more radio operators. So we were all what they call remustered. And the Air Force, like the Army, have got a regulation whereby if you change your trade, because it wasn't it was their decision, you could only remuster in a lower grade. Mm. So I remustered as a clerk, you see. And the fact that I could type meant that I ended up quite a lot of the time typing as a clerk. And the next thing that happened there was that we were conscripted to go to India you see, and
The
they
war,
rigged us out. The war's gone, finished. They rigged us out with all the tropical kit. Quite nice. The Air Force had like a khaki, a very light khaki colour, and Sten gun, all the big brim hat. And when you put on a draft they called it, for overseas, you were given 2 weeks leave. Had the 2 weeks leave, went back, and people were like a couple of guys in our hut. One reckoned his grandmother was dying and they were dreading going to India on this. I didn't, it didn't worry me. In fact, I was disappointed I never went. But out of the blue, they had a shortage of clerks in London, Holborn, Air Ministry. And as I say, I didn't do anything. But several of us got taken out of that draft after we had to leave
Lovely.
and sent to London.
Yeah.
And because I was living in, at the time I was living in Twickenham, you know, where the rugby, I had what they call a sleeping out pass. So you were allowed to sleep off the base. And I slept at home and we got allowance with food and stuff. So it was a piece of cake for me. It was like going to the office in the morning.
So this is at the Air Ministry?
Air Ministry, yeah. And it was, we were on recruiting duties. It was easy stuff, you know.
So that was for the rest of those 3 years?
Yeah,
You did that?
yeah.
Okay. So what age did that put you up to then?
going on to 2021.
No, I'd come out of the Air Force at 21, and I stayed at Gillette's. And then I left Gillette's and went to Shell. So, yeah, I can't remember the dates. So I would have been about, what date did we, you and I meet? 51.
Yeah, 51 December.
And what would I be? 24. That'd be about right. Yeah. So I got it.
No, you would have been 23.
Well, anyway.
You'd be 24 in when you got married.
So, yeah, I worked in Shell as an accountant, like too. And yeah, and then we got married.
Meant to, because I'll come back and ask you about when you first met and all that. Do you want to have a break?
Yeah. Do you want a cup of tea? Coffee?
A cup of tea would be really nice. It would be nice. What we can do is just stop at any time, and I can come back another time if you want to have a break.
No, I'm all right.
You okay?
I'll make a cup of tea though.
Yeah. Okay.
And my life is absolutely the opposite to his.
Yeah.
My parents were.
I can see this is going to take a fortnight.
My parents, of course, they were both Catholics, and we were. Father had a good job. We were well here. We were. Oh, you're doing that? Yeah. We weren't like showing money or anything like that.
Yeah.
And, as you know, going to school, we had a servant carrying our suitcases. We weren't allowed to do anything like that. I didn't know how to make a cup of tea until I went to England at the age of 20 with my sister. Because that was the partition, that was in 1946. And the partition came in 1947, when the Indians was Pakistan and India.
Independence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they separated into two countries.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why my dad sent us before that in 1946.
So it was 1946 that you went to London?
Yeah, in April. And I was on the tube station there. And we'd be 2 weeks in in England, and I noticed a sign there saying they wanted typists. I applied for that and got it.
She's supposed to have been having a break.
Yeah.
That's okay. I can still ask questions. I'm fine. I can keep going. I imagine you need to have a break for your voice or whatever.
Oh, I'm all right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, lovely.
The tea's coming.
Thanks for that. That's lovely.
How do you have it? Milk?
Milk and 2 sugars, please.
Ooh, that's bad.
I've got a sweet tooth, I know.
Yeah, use those packets or bring the bowl with the packets sugar.
Yeah.
So, what's your ancestry?
My great grandfather came from America, Massachusetts, Newburyport, Massachusetts, and he was a sea captain or something on a boat and came to India, and then he decided to settle there, got married. And I think he had about 10 kids or something like that. And my grandfather was the second one in line. And my grandfather married someone with Irish ancestry, I know that. And so my father was born there. But my mother, her father was born in Scotland. His name was Graham, Thomas Webster Graham.
Grimm?
Graham. Graham, Thomas Webster.
Yeah.
And he went out as a child to New Zealand. Then from there, he must have gone to India as a tea planter to work on the. And my mother's mother was from that part of the Himalayas, the bottoms of the Himalayas. That's where they grew the tea. And from what I understand, her forebears came from Mongolia.
How interesting. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, at the bottom of the Himalayas, a tea plantation.
Shillong. Shillong. What's it called? What land? I know it's the Khasi Hills. Khasi, Khasi. Khasi Hills. And that's where they grew all the tea. And I wouldn't know whether my mother was born out of wedlock or whether he married her. I don't know anything like that. Because in those days you kept all those sort of things quiet.
Yeah.
But anyway, she died having her second child. And so my mother was put into a convent run by nuns. And she was left there because he remarried. And the new wife didn't want his first wife's child, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So she lived over there in the convent.
Okay. I might just have my cup of tea. That's a fascinating story. Really amazing. An incredible time that you lived there too.
Yeah. And it was lovely going up of course like that. In India, there was no. And of course, I played games unlike him. I played badminton, field hockey, ring hockey with the skates.
There's a bathroom through there if you want to.
Thank you. That's all good. Thank you very much.
Oh, you should have brought the whole container.
I did.
No, you didn't.
Biscuits.
Yeah,
No, the sugar. The chini.
I was only needed 2.
2, that's fine. That's enough for me.
I collect all that because the boys.
We don't take sugar, you see.
Oh,
And Gregory, of course, has sugar, so it's a convenient way of one thing less for us to do with sugar bowls.
yeah, don't get into it.
We're at the stage of cutting back on stuff now.
Yeah. Well, we did that book up to Mum, and Mum's had lots of really good comments on it. People would really love reading it.
Yeah.
Because it only went for the first 25 years.
Yeah.
People keep saying, well, when's the next instalment? But, yeah, she doesn't really want to do it anymore, and that was a really interesting period of her life. That was good to actually document down. So I think we were all happy just leaving it at that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
See, Peter always moans about not having, leave school early and all, but he did all his education when we were in New Zealand. He used to go to a lot of classes and all that. Because Toastmasters he belonged to and everything. Because you educated yourself then.
Mm. Yeah, something.
But you must have had the ability to do it.
Yeah.
But he writes. He writes because I would say I'm senior Cambridge. I did our exams used to be sent to Cambridge, marked there and sent back.
Well, I've always been of the belief that you've got to take a few shortcuts in your life, otherwise you'd never get anywhere. For instance, one thing that happened was that when I joined the airline, whenever it was, when I joined Shell, they needed 3 years secondary education, which I never had. So I faced up to them and said, I knew about this requirement, and I had it all lined up. And oh yes, and what schools do you go to? I was at Spring Grove Secondary School in Isleworth, which I never went near. And oh yeah, and what subjects? Maths, English, geography. All made up.
Yeah.
Okay. So they accepted it, and I didn't have any. Oh yeah, Spring Grove Secondary School was hit by a bomb, and one part of it was demolished. And I told the guy in Shell, I'm sorry, my mother has lost track of the certificate I had, and the school's records are gone because of this incident. Oh, that's all right. Wrote it down. When I went to join the airline, I said, I've got 3 years secondary, and went through the same thing. And I actually joined, and then about 3 months later, personnel came to me and said, oh, we never got evidence of your school certificate. I'm out, because I couldn't produce it. So I had the brainwave being in the airline because we were able to travel. So I got on a plane from Auckland to Wellington, the capital. Went into Shell. I knew they were there because I had vaguely thought I might join Shell when we went to New Zealand. Saw the personnel bloke and I said, look, I've got this problem. I actually showed the proof in Shell London for this school certificate, which was a lie. And I said, now they want the thing, and I've lost the documents, and I can't be employed there if I don't produce. He had a file on me, which he sent from London, because I thought I was going to. I've still got the letter. It said, Shell headed note, this is to certify that Peter Wood, one of our school, Thomas Wood in those days, and passed in the following subjects 3 years, 7. Took that, highly delighted, took it back and gave it to the.
Oh, a great story.
See, now that's, if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been out joining the airline.
You wouldn't have gone down the path that you did.
Just quietly, I'd put a lot of work into that airline. She'll tell you I used to go out at 6 o'clock in the morning, get the car and go out, because I had a big staff, and I'd check up on them, and I was a hands-on manager, which you have to be, and I did quite well with this thing. But if I hadn't taken that little shortcut.
This goes to show, doesn't it? That letter would actually be very good to
I'll
put
see if I
into
can find
him.
it.
Yes,
I did come across it. It was just a little flimsy.
Yeah.
Do you think you know where it is?
You right?
Anyway, we might be able to find it. We can't find it now.
Yeah.
But
which one is this?
yeah, because the names you see all got. I was christened on the birth certificate that said Thomas Atkin Wood, That's technically my name. Now, my mother, for some reason, started calling me Peter, like a nickname, I suppose. Now, what I should have done was stick to the TA word. And then what you can do is put Peter in brackets, you know, as a sort of nickname. But what I did was, I thought, right, well, my first name's Thomas. And at school I was known as Thomas from the Gillettes. And so I put, well, my name was Thomas Peter Wood. And forgot the Atkin. And so part of the time I was T.A. Wood, part of the time I was T.P. Wood.
Very confusing.
And then I thought I should really bring an Atkin into it. And when I went to New Zealand in the airline, I regularised it. And I put my name as Peter Thomas Atkin Wood. And that's what I'm known today as, and I've stuck with that and never changed it. So tax records and everything in New Zealand was Peter Thomas Atkin Wood. But that was my idea.
It makes it difficult, doesn't it? If you swap your name around, and the records catch up with you.
Well, we went to see this guy who used to work with.
There's a letter over there
From
the police.
Song.
Thanking you for your help in catching the fellow.
Oh, yeah.
That was from New Zealand, was that one? Yeah, okay. We'll talk about that one after.
Yeah. As I say, I sort of feel there's so much of this. I don't know how you can do this.
Oh, it's really, really interesting, and believe me, I'll get it put down, and I'll give it to you, and there may be other things you want to correct that I put down, or things you want to add along the way. So, did you meet Pat when you were at Shell? Did you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was at Shell.
Well,
we met at the Hammersmith Palais, which is a big dance hall.
Yeah, you got all this, you know, like, he was born in 1717, he was a carpenter.
My father.
Copy of Atkin family dates.
Yeah, well, don't bring that all in.
No, I just forgot that you had it.
I don't think that letter's there, Pat. I think it must be downstairs somewhere. Anyway.
Met at the Hammersmith, what was that?
Palais, P-A-L-A-I-S. It was a big dance hall. On Saturday nights, you could barely see from one corner of the room to the other. With the smoke, everybody smoked, of course, in those days. Yeah. And the haze it was a great place. They had all the latest bands there at the time. Joe Loss. Oh yeah. What that?
Yeah. You should put that in.
I must have been 3 there.
Yeah, that would come up.
You see, we don't know what we've got.
No, we don't.
Because we haven't looked at all the stuff that we just
The trouble is, we never throw anything away, or my wife doesn't.
No, I know that. I can't help it.
Well, what we could do, because
That's your father.
Our biological father.
Oh, it's +10,
because it's 10:30.
Is Gregory coming back or something?
He is when we give him a ring.
Oh, yes.
I could, because we've gone up to a period where you've met, and what I'd like to do is maybe stop there and then talk about that again some other time. Pat, are you up to speaking about your life now for a while?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Because I'm sure you don't want me here the whole time, and you need to have a break at some stage.
Well, we're in your hands. We'll go along with whatever you decide, sure.
Well, what we could do is spend time now talking about, Pat, your early life up until when you met, and then we can chat about when you met, and maybe we can call that a day then. But if you had any photos, maybe in the meantime while I was talking about Pat, if you had any photos relating to that the period of life we talked to, or your letters, or maybe I can get them some other time and Greg can give them at work.
Yeah.
So
and of course we haven't got to the trip yet either.
No. The trip, which one's that?
London, Calcutta.
in my car.
Yeah, I know that. I saw Greg told me about that. So yeah, that we'll do that
Yeah.
for sure. But I expect what might be a good idea is if I do this with you, maybe we talk about the period when you met, and then maybe I can come back some other time
Okay.
because this is an exhausting thing to
That's
do.
right.
For yourselves, it's okay for me, but I imagine it can get a bit exhausting for you too.
Actually, I'm feeling a bit better. I don't know why.
You do look a bit better actually, because you've just been sitting there. Do you want that fan on you a little bit more?
No, I'm all right.
It's probably blood sugar. It could be a blood pressure thing. Have you done that this morning? Could be low, you see.
No, I don't know why it was high. I've never had it so high.
It was high, was it?
Yeah, 10.
Yeah, that's not good.
I mean, I was 2 on this. I'm diabetic. I take pills. And I was 2 in 3, which is too low. And so she's changed it, and now I'm high.
Your body's
So
adjusting.
yeah, I'm going on Tuesday, and she's going to
Wow.
look over the numbers and say, yeah, so.
Well, you were born.
Yeah, you can have a break now for a while.
Do I start from when I
Yeah,
was
and you
born?
talk about when you were born and where you were born.
In Calcutta on the 3rd of September 1925. And I was walking by 9 months. Great feat. Yeah.
And you had sisters and brothers?
One sister, 3 years younger than me. And
And what was her name?
Daphne.
So in Calcutta, where were you born? Because it was a fairly large place, wasn't it?
In Calcutta itself.
Was there a province in Calcutta or in a hospital you were
Oh,
born?
yes, in the hospital, but it was city, you know.
In the city.
Okay.
They were in the city. That was cool.
Calcutta, yeah. The main city, I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
What did your dad do?
accountant.
Okay.
The Jessup and Company. They made bridges and stuff like that.
Which company? Jessup?
Jessup, J-E-S-S-O-P, well known in England.
Okay. And what, your mum? Do you stay at home and look after the kids?
Well, my mom stayed at home, yes, but we had an eye who looked after the kids.
Servants, you see. Talk about.
And the thing is, when you're growing up like that young and being looked after, you know, going into a nurse, you know, you get to love that nurse a lot more, you know. I can remember taking up for her instead of my mom at one time.
Yeah. So what was the nurse's name?
Just Aya.
Aya.
A-Y-A-H, that's the nurse, you know, Aya. That's all it's called.
What was it? A-A?
A-Y-A-H.
Yeah.
All of
Aya.
them who looked after children before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. So, what are your earliest memories?
Well, as I said, my mother was very good as regards giving parties and stuff like that. So I always had birthday parties and Christmas tree. I can remember Christmas tree being brought in, and the Mali, which is the gardener, used to do all the decorations. And of course, they loved all that, you know, the Indian servants, because they were giving presents and all that.
Yeah.
See? And I had a fun life, you know. I used to go to the skating rink and skate over there, and that's how I got into rink hockey and then field hockey. But I used to play more badminton than that. And I did this without my parents taking me. I did it all myself.
The servants would have taken you along, I guess.
No, I used to go catch up with some friends across the road or nearby who were school with me. As the kids know, the Belletti sisters. Belletti sisters.
Letty.
Belletti, B-E-L-L-E-T-T-Y. Italian name.
So that was your maiden name, was it?
Rundlet. R-U-N-D-L-E-T-T. R-U-N-D-M-E-T-T.
And why did they call you the Belletti sisters?
Oh no, the friends were the
Oh,
Belletti sisters.
okay.
Yeah. I was always with the Belletti. I was never ever home.
Yeah.
I was always with them because there was three of them, just one of me. My sister was a stay-at-home, you know. She never had any friends, Jackie.
Yes.
And in fact, I was looking through all the photos where she is with me and she's with my crowd.
Yeah.
When we grew up. Yeah. And I was like a self-starter. And then, of course, the Japanese bombed Calcutta in,
During the war.
I'm trying to think what year it was. Because I was in my last year at the senior game, so I was 16, so how old would that be? 40, 41, 42?
Mm-hmm.
So my father sent us to central India. My mother's cousin was a doctor. And so I had to finish my schooling there.
Mm-hmm. So whereabouts in Central India?
Jabalpur, J-U-B-B-U-L-P-O-R-E.
Okay.
U-L-P-O-R-E, Jabalpur.
Yeah.
And so that was my last year. Finished this, and it was, as I say, in the Suri Cambridge thing, which I passed.
So for your schooling, they did the exams there and sent them over to Cambridge to be marked.
Yeah, the subjects used to be sent to the test thing, and then we used to send it back, and they used to send them. But even I used to play the piano, and the fellow from the Royal Academy of Music, he used to come out and test us.
Okay.
It was all done from London, yeah.
Yeah.
So from London he used to come out and
yeah.
test you.
Yeah.
And the senior Cambridge, you see, they went to Cambridge University. That's where they were all marked. Everything was tied up with London because it was one of the colonies, of course, at that stage.
Yeah.
And I went to the Loretto Convent, by the way, run by nuns.
So that was before you went to Jabalpur.
Jabalpur's nuns also.
Okay.
So she's a Catholic.
Yeah. So it must have been absolutely fascinating growing up there.
Absolutely different.
How is it different? What to?
Well, to him and being in England and stuff like that, I mean, it's a different sort of life being mollycoddle sort of a thing, you know. I had all those parties and outings, and when I joined the Americans, well, as I say, I was doing shorthand typing, and the woman said, the Americans want some typists, and I've only been there about 6 weeks. And a whole lot of us went to on the outs near the aerodrome, you know, in Calcutta. They picked us up the truck, the Americans, and we were the only ones with a handful, and I was one of them that was selected.
So that was at Dum Dum.
Dum Dum Airport, yes.
It's where they made the Dum Dum bullets.
What are Dum Dum bullets?
Well, they're terrible things. They used to be outlawed now.
Yeah.
But during the First World War, it was a bullet that went in like normal way and then split open. And so it would go in like a small, and come out like a big hole the other side. It was terrible. They were outlawed, but Dum Dum was the place for that. Still there, the airport, Dum Dum. We flew out of there.
Yeah.
So what was the convents like? Having nuns teach you? Were the nuns nice?
Oh, yeah, mainly. A lot of them was Irish. You do get, I mean, I used to play the piano. I don't know if I made a mistake. You got to put on with the rule on your knuckles. And there was one nun, which I remember. She had these fierce eyes, and her name was Mother Ita, I-T-A. And each time I passed, I thought go back for
no reason.
You know what? Nuns, of course.
You must have done something.
Nah, just didn't like me.
So they weren't particularly nice people.
Well, she wasn't, but on the other hand, we used to have one of the subjects was cooking. And Sister Catherine thought I was marvelous, and I can remember telling one of the Belletti sisters, Catherine, that I had passed this thing, and she said, "Oh, that's only because she likes you."
Cooking.
That's good. There were some good ones there then.
Oh yes, by and large it made me good in the
And you had lots of cyclones, I expect, in that area of the world.
dust storms, I remember, and monsoons. We used to have monsoons where you got
Torrential rain.
and we used to go out and play and walk in the rain, which we shouldn't have done. We used to get into trouble for that. But monsoons and dust storms, I can remember having to hide from them,
I would not have thought you'd have dust storms in India.
like down from the year.
Yeah. And I've read that there was a big cyclone in 1942 around the area. You don't remember that one?
Yeah. As I said, we always refer to them as monsoons.
You were there in 42, weren't you?
42, no, I'd been in Jabalpur.
Oh,
Oh, that would explain it why you weren't there. That's fair enough. So,
And of course, during the holidays, May holidays, it was very hot then, and we used to go up to the hills, as they call it, Darjeeling, D-A-R.
yeah, where the tea is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
J-W-L-I-N-G. And I've got pictures riding a horse and stuff like that. I had a pair of jodhpurs, I remember, the jodhpurs.
Yeah, I do know
Yeah,
that.
as I say, we were, as growing up, we were provided with everything. It's different.
you could see Mount Everest from Darjeeling, couldn't you?
Something like that. I can remember seeing Mount Kilimanjaro, and I think there was
Yeah, all that big range of mountains in the north of India.
Yeah. So for holidays, you went up into the hills then, Darjeeling. What else? Is that where you went for your holidays always?
Yes, and I remember just one year we went to the seaside, and that was south of Calcutta. And that was just 1 year. Vizag at the time, I don't know how to spell that way, I said. Vizag at the time, that was just 1 year.
So the parties that your mum used to put on, what happened at your parties? Describe what the parties were like.
I can remember, what they call those
Pinatas?
Yeah, we big things like that. And then, like rice, but we had them over here, like rice puffs or something like that, It wasn't like the ordinary rice, but it was the type of thing that we used to come and lollies, as they say, and little presents and all that used to come down.
Out of the pinatas. Yeah.
But great big things, not a little thing.
Yeah. And very colourful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fish and all that. As I say, she was really marvelous because she never had that sort of being brought up until she was very, like a teenager and she went to, I think she was in Earth in a hospital, stayed or something. But she did everything, and it was mainly me who got it. Every birthday, Christmas, everything like that. When I was 15, she made me my first long dress, and it was like a snow white dress that we had, so like the 7-year-olds then.
Yeah.
And she got it that kind of made it. She was really, really wonderful with what she did to us. She gave us what she never had.
So she was a wonderful mother to you.
Oh, she was really sweet. I could run really well. But my father had to be a stern one with some tiny walls and trees and stuff. I was a bit of a tiny boy.
Okay, so what did you get up to if you were a
Well,
tomboy?
there was a high wall, much higher than this, see, from over here, double the size. And I used to climb up the bamboo ladder and then walk along the parapet to the right, and quite a long distance to get to the mango tree. Or run on the road after the horse-drawn carriages. We used to call them garries, Gharries, drawn by a horse, and at the back they used to have a little seat for the slice, footman.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they didn't have the footman there, so I used to rush after this when the horse and go and sit at the back of it, because my father saw us and didn't approve of that, so I got a few whacks for that. Yeah. In those days you got back to it. But my mother never ever raised her hand whatsoever.
Yeah. So do you like your dad?
I was my father's daughter. Yeah. As I say, my mother was a sook, and therefore it was my dad that you know that I was good. He taught me a lot of things to be proud of myself.
Right, so you looked up to your dad a lot?
And I used to go about it when he went. I was about 15 or 16, and I went up into the race course, and the Calcutta race course was considered one of the finest in the world, by the way. I don't know about now. And I could remember wearing my mother's high shoes, my hair up and all the way. And the Swedish friend, my father used to go to stocks and shares and all that. He said, "Is that your wife?" And my father said, "I felt I was so proud to think that I could have had a young wife, Yeah, I was always with him when he went to visit different people and all that.
Okay. So what, this was with his business where he was going to visit people, or?
No, just to talk horse racing and stocks and shares, stock market. But those were his two main hobbies. And he had a very good memory, you see, which Gregory has inherited.
Mm-hmm.
I inherited to a certain extent too, and that my father inherited a good memory from his Irish grandmother.
Okay. So did your father have any horses?
No.
He just did all the betting?
Betting, yeah.
Did you lose a lot of money on that?
No, I don't know. Never ever said. But he could rattle off a whole lot from years back as to what the trainer was and what the horse had done and all that, you see. How they go back on the past achievements. That's what's going on. Oh, he was a good man. But as I say, both of them.
Very lucky. Yeah.
My whole life has been that.
Very exciting.
Don't want him to know that.
So, with being in Calcutta, in a British colony, I'm trying to imagine what that would have been like. You interacted with the other colonists?
No, like people who were like Jewish, they were like in their own little bit, and we never really mixed with the Indians, did we?
No.
I can remember being the two Indian girls being in our class, but we never ever had anything to do.
Okay.
And you just kept with like British Indian, we were like called Anglo Indians, English Indians, sort of thing. And Armenians, Armenians, but they all like
Kept to themselves.
It was not so weird to together. In Melbourne, I suppose, I don't know.
Yeah. So I know in India they're very big on festivals and they have a huge number of festivals. You didn't get involved in that? Or?
No, we used to go up to the terrace, the houses used to be, as you know, flat roof and you get stairs and there's a sort of thing on the balcony. And you could watch all the puja where they used to throw the sweat stuff on them and all the different things, the lights, festivals. We used to watch them.
Yeah. So that was the extent of the involvement. There really wasn't a lot of interaction. Okay. So, in terms of food there, being in India, did you have a lot of Do you ever have any Indian food, or we still?
Yeah, we used to have Indian food because the cook was Indian, of course. But we also had like rissoles and stuff like that, or chicken, roast
Bacon and eggs.
chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that, mixture and everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of it would come to the door. Like, I used to eat these pomlos. Pomlo is like a big orange, big size of a mango orange.
No,
And-
the size of the small football.
Yeah, well, and they'd come to the door
Yeah.
with on his head,
Yeah, that's
big
the fruit.
basket,
Yeah.
and he'd sell them. So shopping was much easier because all sorts of people would come to the door.
So the servants didn't have to go to the market so
Yeah,
much
the
to
servants
get
did,
food.
really
Yeah,
good meat
but-
and all that.
Yeah, but a lot of it used to walk around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard in that part of India, or read, that they're very big on sweets, and sweets that were made from milk.
Yeah.
Sandish was my favorite. It was a lovely sweet. Never every year of it. Yeah.
There was actually an article in the paper yesterday, I think it was, about Calcutta, or Kolkata as they call it now, and about,
See that?
yeah, I've got it here, I'll give it to you, where they talk about the sweets there and all the sweet shops
We've
everywhere.
got Saturday's paper. No, that's today's.
Yeah.
We'll look it up.
Yeah, and they used to have, like you were talking about the hawkers, or in someone
Yeah.
about them coming around with toppings
Yeah.
in all different shapes
Yeah.
as well.
And there was the ice cream thing too. What do they call that? Ice cream.
July 2010.
Yeah, we used to buy the ice cream. I'm talking about that. And of course, all the different nuts. They used to sell that in Franklin's, I think it was. But no one does it now. The yellow. What's it called?
Walnuts.
No, all those little.
Oh,
Yeah,
Puja thing.
Yeah, yes. Got it. Got the name.
A special type of
Fuji.
nut.
Something with a V.
Yeah. With all little bits, quite hot.
Yeah. And like a trail mix, but Asian.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trail mix.
So when you were in India, when you left school, and your last year of school was yeah, back in central India, what did you do after leaving school?
Well, we came back to Calcutta then, and then I joined this typing class. And in 6 weeks' time, I was working for the Americans, and I was there for about 2.5 years, 3 years or something, until I worked there until 1946, so it'll be 3 years.
And what was it like working for the Americans out there?
Very good pay.
Yeah, and my father said, gosh, he said, he was amazed at the money because they pay American wages, you see.
Oh, yeah.
And that is why I was able to save such a lot because I've always been a bit stingy. And and then of course that's how we were able to buy a house in England when we put our money together, which was very unusual in those days.
Yeah.
Yeah, most everybody rented.
Yes. And what were we up to?
And of course, what happened then was the partition with India, the British pulling out, all these terrible riots. And that's when they were sent. Well, before that.
Before we missed all that.
Yeah.
But my father said he used to see mounds of about 500 heads or something like that going off the streets on the people who were killed.
So you missed that because you were for a year
We had been sent away before the partition, you see.
before the riots, because I know that it was the Muslims versus the Hindus,
That's
wasn't
right.
it? That was really, really bad. And I had some shocking things happen. Calcutta riots of 1946, is that
Yeah, well,
it?
she was in England by then.
That was in, oh, you're in England then.
April, April.
Troop ship.
Yep.
We just saw that. Yeah.
So April 1946 is when we went to England
Mm.
on a troop ship. Okay. So you would. So in the war, you would have been there, and you had the Japanese come and bomb that. The wolves, yeah.
Because they occupied Burma, which
1942.
was just the other side of the mountain range, and used to send the bombers over the mountain range into Calcutta. It's only a short distance.
I forgot what they used to call it, not the cat, hump.
Saddle, hump.
Hump. Yeah, that's right. Forgetting all that. Yeah, because so I was doing like, I was in the department where they were sending parts of the airplane to all these different people and clothes and stuff like that in food rations.
So how did that affect you in your life then, when you were in the middle of the war?
Again, the boys that I met over there were champions.
Yeah.
Because remember, I'm a Catholic, you see. So no.
Not on a Sunday.
I used to say, you can hold my hand, give me a kiss, and that's it.
And what about the
I said that to him, but it didn't work.
No. And what about the rationing? Did that affect you much? Did you have ration coupons or anything?
Think so, no.
No.
I don't remember any of that, no.
With the bombing, was that often or was
It didn't last very long, I don't think. And you see, we went to, it must have just happened and he sent us straight away, my dad. So you have to, and in fact, there was a shrapnel in our garden. He wrote and told us. So I don't remember anything about the bombing or anything like that.
Okay. You don't remember the air raids or anything?
I think,
No,
in
she's
fact,
gone.
for all I might know, he gave sent us before it started.
Yeah, that's right. Probably did.
Because I don't remember anything like that.
And with regards to Gandhi, did you ever see or have anything to do with the whole thing around Gandhi?
Yeah. I know a little bit about his life and all that.
Yeah.
I can remember a picture of him in a dress suit, potatoes and top hat. And he went to Harrow school, to the university there and studied.
Yeah.
All the top Indians went to school in England. All the top schools.
Okay.
And the Maharajas and all that.
So really you missed out on seeing a fair bit of violence and all sorts of stuff from the war and bombing and everything.
She was overprotective.
You were very lucky.
And as I say, I've been very lucky in my life. I've had no trauma at all.
There was a big famine, the Bengal famine in 1943. Did that affect you at all?
I don't know anything about it.
Bengal.
Yeah.
43.
Well, those three again, perhaps I was in Japan before, we just come back. I don't know anything about the family. You see, as I say, it wouldn't affect us, the people with money.
No.
No, that's right.
It would be the poor people. Horrible thing to say, but.
What about your social life when you came out of school? You went to parties and that sort of thing?
Yes.
Tell me a bit about that.
Well, we had a lot of parties in the house, and of course when the Americans were there, and I've always been not that great, social.
Yeah.
And I remember inviting a whole lot of them, and one of them was a fellow with a band, slightly, one of them played the double bass and guitar, and one of them had the whip thing,
The whip thing.
Yeah, where you can whip. They do it over here in Australia, where you whip and you don't feel it. The thing. It's the way they do it. You heard it, right?
It's a crack and
Yeah.
the stock whip type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they could have the whip on you, but you didn't feel it.
Okay.
He did this trick. That was his party trick. My mother used to light up the garden with all the colored lights. Of course, the servants used to be on that. And we had a big, long compound where you could dance and stuff like that. And she, as I say, we were one of the first people to buy a big radiogram. Glenn Miller and all that I had. And I was getting all those records by the boys, you see. Because they used to, and as I say, I used to have the rap over there, the local boys, the Americans, and they used to come over. And a lot of them, I used to go out with somebody else, and they used to stay and play bridge or cards with my dad and mom. And of course, we had a piano, so they would sing songs and all that.
Sounds like a magical lifestyle.
Yeah. As I say, I was that type of person who liked. So you know, I could make friends usually, and without getting complicated.
Yeah, yeah. And they had clubs there, didn't they? Did you go to any of the
My
clubs?
father belonged to the Rangers Club. When I was a kid, actually, they used to have Christmas parties.
And there was a rifle club, your mum.
Ah, yes, forgot about that. The rifle club, and she was very, very good.
She was a crack shot, her mum. My mother-in-law.
Didn't know.
Was that a worry?
She died at the age of 103 and a half.
Oh, you're joking.
In Calcutta. She died in the convent where she started off.
Well, not the same convent.
No, but
in a convent, yeah.
she started off in a convent and ended up in a convent. They looked after her. They look up to the old people, you see. They used to get blessings from her and all that stuff.
The young kids used to come because she was like old. They respect the old people, you know, and this bless you. We ask for old people to bless them.
Okay, so your dad was in the Rangers Club. What's the Rangers Club?
Like East Leach Club or something. It's just the name of it. It was where you have functions. And, there was a library in there, and you could go for meals and dinners and you know that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay.
And functions.
Yeah. And the Rifle Club, did they go shooting animals and that sort of thing?
No, just targets.
Target shooting. Okay, your mum was very good.
Oh, my grandfather was, besides being an amateur photographer, I think he worked on the railways or something like that. But he was also a shooter. I've got photographs of him in a dinghy with his gun on. But like he would be on the outskirts of Calcutta or whatever, and the villagers used to come and say, there's a tiger roaming around and they're eating something. And they were, and so he'd go and they make him a charm. That's a platform on the tree. And he'd sit up there and they put a little billy goat at the bottom of the tree and the tiger would come and he'd shoot it. He used to look after the villagers for crocodiles. And we used to have crocodile skin. I remember he made suitcases out of the crocodile skins. And I can remember once, like a carpet with the tiger's head being in the lounge.
Oh, no.
I don't know what happened to that.
So that was like a rug on the floor?
Yeah.
Like you see in the movies?
Yeah. But he was a shika, isn't it?
Shika, yeah, hunt.
And my grandmother, his wife, who was Irish, she used to look after the villagers when they got sick and stuff like that, you know, do different things for them. But when we were on that trip, we were in Iran, and we were out in like a desert, and we were making a cup of tea, and out of the blue, there's nothing anywhere. We saw that coming along, and we said, you know, his eyes were all, you know, happy. And
G'day.
oh, and so I had some golden hour ointment, which I told him, you know, sign language to put and gave it to him, remember?
Yeah.
So I mean, that sort of thing. I suppose she used to do different things like that for whatever she knew, because she wasn't a doctor or a nurse. But people, white people who were there, like up near jungles and all that, used to help the villagers.
So your grandma and granddad, did they live on a farm or what did they have?
No. I would know really. Just bungalow as they call them there, I suppose. But I think he worked for the railway.
And that was in Calcutta?
On the outskirts of my country because many of the villages are there.
Had a good railway system there. Tongs put that in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it like coming out on the troop ship?
Very crowded. There were 42 cabins.
How many?
40.
40.
Yeah.
To a cabin.
Yeah.
All women.
All women. Yeah.
42. How big was the cabin?
I had lots of bunks, yeah.
How many tiers?
It was a troop ship, you see.
How many tiers was it? You know?
I can only remember 2. Yes, because I slept in top and Captain slept in the bottom.
Yeah.
There's no one above me.
No.
Then we used to go and to get washed. And the women were mainly wives, English wives, belonging to privates and brokers and all that, going back home. And we used to be there, undressed and packing bags. We were not used to it.
And how long was that voyage?
I think it took 6 weeks. We arrived in Liverpool.
Did you get seasick much?
No, I didn't get seasick.
Yeah.
No. Fortunately, I don't get sick or seasick. But and you couldn't move around. We used to sit down on the deck over there, and of course we had people who like who we grew up, who we knew, not English, if you know what I mean. So we all sort of get together and talk, and if we wanted to go to the toilet or something, we should get up and cross over the legs to go, we were that kind of.
So when it was a troop ship, it was just mainly women who were on the ship going back.
And there was a separate part with a roped off and some soldier guarding the thing for men.
Keep them away
With a
from
gun.
Yeah, yeah. Because being a troop ship, there would not have been soldiers also going back. And I suppose that the women were the wives and stuff like that.
So when you said there were 40 of you going back.
Oh yeah, just in one cabin, yeah.
Okay.
There'd be a
Just
whole
in one,
lot.
when you said one cabin, are you talking about a place like one room, like this?
Yeah, yeah.
In one room like this, there
Yeah.
were 40.
Yeah, probably a bit longer than this one.
Standing room on head.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was very little room. We saw the Queen Mary, the original Queen Mary in Long Beach, California, and you can see it. And it was designed as a troop ship. And they used to have like 1, 2, 3, 4 bunks, ladder going up.
Yeah.
And there'd be a tiny little place like that you could just walk through. And then 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, yeah.
Just incredible. And the interesting thing about the Queen Mary was that it never needed an escort because it travelled so fast that the submarines and that couldn't keep up with it. It used to do, I don't know, 35, 40 knots or something like that. Queen Mary.
Did you have any pets when you were growing up?
Yes, I used to like cats. And we did have a little puppy. But we had cats mainly. I can remember the cats being put into the chevalier, as we call it, the signpost, the chevalier. And it was an enclosed area, like it was like
Little
for
kennel.
a cat, like a little box where
So I thought maybe in India you had some unusual pets there.
She ate snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and we did have a dog for a little puppy, and something happened to it. But it's mainly cats.
Probably one of the
But
snakes got it.
when I was a little, like 2-year-old, my mother used to take me up to the hillsides, and I used to put on a or a donkey.
Go through the tea groves, tea bushes. Yeah. So you were into swing dancing as well, and Frank Sinatra. Was that in Calcutta? You had all that happening there?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Jitterbug. My father used to. You know how they swing you around.
Yeah.
And of course I was thin these days. Not so heavy, and he used to say, you hurt yourself doing that because he liked dancing.
Yeah.
He used to do the waltz, he goes to the waltz later, but not the chance to.
Yeah.
And of course, in my day we did the quick step and the foxtrot and the rumba and the conga. That's right. Remember.
So
the long line.
Was this all at parties that your mum put
Yeah.
on?
I used to go just about every day to some sort of dance and party and dance. Because in those the rap would have it, and RAF, and then the Americans would have Jews, and then there'd be our Jews. I've got pictures of them dancing.
And that was just at the RAF and the Americans base, or did they have?
And the local people. And of course, before when I came back from Calcutta, I belonged to the Rail Club, the Catholics and Catholics, and we used to have dances with there.
Is that Grail or Rail?
Grail.
Might be Grail.
Trans.
Okay. Yeah.
Grail.
Religious thing.
Oh yeah, the priest used to be over there to see what we done.
No shenanigans.
A bit like a blue light disco.
Yeah.
Except with priests watching it.
Yeah.
Okay. And Frank Sinatra was a.
Glenn Miller. Frank Sinatra was just a very, very young. I remember the first record I bought it, and he sang For You. I'm sorry you're not me.
I could picture him singing. I haven't seen it, but I can picture it.
And who else? Who I like? Dinah Shaw, Ella Fitzgerald.
Louis Armstrong.
But Glenn Miller was used to dance to. I mean, that was just the right music for everybody.
So what was the biggest adventure, the most exciting thing that happened to you when you were in Calcutta? Anything stand out?
Nothing. As I say, it was dancing and games and boys and all that.
Sounds like a
Sort
dream.
of debauchery, you could say.
It does, doesn't it?
And of course, you see, there were more boys than girls.
Yeah, so
All the troops over there,
They were fairly popular over here, I gather, when the Americans came over.
Yeah.
And as I say, my father wasn't very happy about them joining the Americans because, they've got a bad name, I don't think, but I found them actually a lot better than the British boys. I thought, especially the ones in the army, were a good force, as far as I was concerned. But don't forget, I was a girl who was going to church nearly every day.
Did you really? You went to church nearly every day?
Yes, early in the
So not just on Sunday?
No. I used to love going to church. In fact, at one I told her, this is when I came back before I joined the Americans. You mind being a nun now? And she cried.
Right. What have we done? It's 10 past 11. That's been 2 hours. It's been pretty intensive.
Yeah.
You're probably saying,
You're up to 1941 or something.
I told you it's going to take a while to do this.
Yeah.
I haven't even got to the bit where they've met and talked about that yet.
What about, oh, you've done the trip from,
No.
No, because they haven't met yet.
I see you doing chronological.
Yeah, but I have to admit, I really had a lovely time going on.
Yeah.
Without anything hassle, without anything going on. I
Sounds
did.
magical.
And you can verify that.
Well, what I can do is I can write this up as we've gone through now and talk it out. If you've got any photos or those letters, that letter we were talking about, or anything else from that period that you could give me, and I can take some now, or we can give it to Greg and he can pass it on.
Yeah, how are we going to do that? The nicest one of me that I want. Shall we take it off in that funny book that's broken?
Did you want the pictures?
Photos now.
Did you want pictures now?
It's up to you. I can
I
take
think
it
that'd
away
be the best
now.
way. That way you agree which ones you want to go or which ones you want.
How are we going to pass it, Greg?
And then Donna passed back to
No,
us.
that's not the one. Where's that one with the...
Photos?
Oh, yes, that's it. Yeah. So, how shall I get Gregory to touch the thing off? I wanted to do that.
No, you
because
don't.
he looks so much like
Oh,
Greg
it
Mills again.
is a beautiful photo, isn't it? But you don't want to
As I said,
with a razor blade, Greg could just cut round there probably.
Well, Greg, you could, because I wouldn't want to take this whole book, rather than take it out, you could just scan that
With a razor
yourself,
blade,
couldn't
you could
on
just
a
cut.
printer, because I don't want to take that one out.
See the sellotape, just cut this sellotape.
Yeah.
See, my
I can do that.
What's
my
that
granddad took all those photographs of me.
See?
Yeah.
So that's a
Brass
lovely
table.
photo. That would be really good. Because it's showing a bit of
You've got a razor blade in
the
your
out
thing.
background as well.
Yeah. Do you think?
Yeah.
Is that the nurse that looked after you?
No, that's a cousin or someone,
okay.
a friend or something like that.
Yeah.
You met her in Scotland, remember?
We're doing razor blade.
Is that
told me.
your mum?
Mum.
That would
And that's
be-
my mum there. Oh, look how it's gone, eh? That's
Yeah.
my father's leather.
Here we can stick these back in.
Yeah.
So review
And
on
that's,
that
don't
one.
you think that's a nice one?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And
It's
it's
lovely.
clear.
It's very clear.
Yeah. Now, as I say, it looks so much like Giga.
Might be a bit drunk. Huh?
Giggy?
Which part of Brisbane do you live in, Tom?
I live over near Indooroopilly at 17 Mile Rocks.
Where?
17 Mile Rocks.
Oh,
Near
that's-
Jindalee.
No.
south.
West.
No. West.
Oh, it's quite a way then.
It's about 35 minutes. No, it's not too bad. 35, 40 minutes.
Is there any other ones from your computer?
I like to add that Greg has gone through his life without any mishap. He's never done anything wrong
Yes.
compared to the other two boys. The other two boys have been quite good, but he's like me.
See
Nice.
you see his halo if you look carefully.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah, the wings are sprouting out the back as well.
That's right. Mention the
But
big
truly,
head.
do you know I don't ever remember even giving him a slap, and you never ever did either.
Oh,
No, he never. Did you ever get a whack from us?
yes.
No, never. He never did
Pretty
anything
good.
wrong.
Don't you love it when you find something wrong and start talking to your parents about it?
Okay. This has been falling apart.
So how old do you think you would have been there?
Well, you can see that's around about a year old, I think.
Yeah.
I got nothing marked at the back. My mother didn't put anything at the back down.
Oh yeah, 1 year and
Yeah.
3 months. Yeah, there are the names. So are there any other photos of India that
Well,
that have India in it?
There was nothing really pertaining to what we've covered so far.
Right.
I mean,
Sure.
that's a picture of my father.
Yeah.
Oh, well, this might be better. This is a picture of my father, my
Yeah, I reckon
half
that's a
brother
good one.
from Canada.
But
That's his son
picture is not so good.
and me,
Yeah.
the half no. That's the
Okay.
three of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would that be
Yeah.
better?
If you would, oh, that's probably a really good one. I think.
Yeah, I've never seen that photo, so that's good.
No.
Yeah, I think this one would be really good for the period that we're talking in.
Do you want this in your hand?
If you'd like me to put that in, absolutely. It's up to you. If that's an important photo to you, we'll put it in.
Do you want it out of there, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. So, there are any photos that are of the period that we talked about? So, you said your grandfather was a really good photographer. Were there any others that he's taken that you've got here?
What my father took.
Yeah.
My grandfather took.
Have you got the one of the what were you typing?
I don't know where it is. You took it. I don't know what happened to it.
I left it there.
Or any photos of your house?
Which
that you have
house?
In India, in Calcutta?
Probably have.
And dressed up in your beautiful dresses and at parties? That'll be real good photos. Oh, that's your mum and dad. Oh, that's beautiful. That would be good to put in. Yeah. Absolutely. So that was on their wedding day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
4 years before I was born, 1921, April 1921.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's fantastic.
That's that one.
Okay.
Yeah, this was the photo I was telling John about, the one where you were typing.
How cute. That's beautiful. Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my grandfather,
Actually, just ask Mum.
grandmother.
Is that when you were working at the Air Force Base?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Comes on the airport. Okay. And and that's the four of us, that part of India.
Oh, that would be an excellent photo. That would be really, really good.
What about that one? That was their wedding, wasn't it?
Yeah, but we haven't come to that yet, have we?
I can scan that.
No, but we.
Yeah, I can scan it in now.
I mentioned it in 1950.
Oh, yeah. I'm great.
Now, do you want a smaller one of that, Donna, or was that big one? See, this is the smaller one.
Yeah, the small one's going to be easy to scan in.
Louis Gregory.
Yeah.
There's a picture of the
I don't put that one in.
Yeah,
He's
you've
the
got
one
to scan
with
that one in.
squinting his eyes up and
Oh!
with that helmet on.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, excellent. That's a good one. So,
See, there's my granddad in a boat with
oh,
a gun.
that's fantastic. Great photo to have that one. So
Great.
this is you with one of the rap guys,
One of the Americans.
one of the
And he
Americans.
just wanted to kiss me now, saying no. Can you see me saying no?
I can see the no formed on the lips.
I
Yeah.
think you gave him the green light.
No, I never did. He worked in my department and he was all right. I don't know.
That was
I'm
There's
very
more,
fussy.
maybe Jim or just a Jim one.
How old would you have been there?
I'm working for the Americans again.
So it's that period in the Americans.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
What about this family one?
Yeah, that's very nice.
What an absolute stunner. You know who is looking like you? Beck.
Becky, yeah. I told Becky the other day.
Yeah, that's right.
And Becky very sweetly said, Grandma, thank you for my hair. No, not hair, skin. What am I saying? Hair is not because I had reddish hair.
Oh.
So did he.
Good.
And Martin, my second son. Well, all of them. Because red is his family, Irish, I used to be called carrot top and ginger beer and all this rubbish.
When we took the three boys to Calcutta in 1963, they used to, people would come up and touch their head. These Indians, they're absolutely crazy on redhead. And they used to dye their hair this horrible colour.
Henna, yeah.
But I remember once the three boys, the monsoon came, you know, the rain comes, we were under this shop veranda, and these three were holding hands, looking out. And along the street, walking in the gutter were these three Indian kids. And honestly, I wish I'd had my camera because the three Indian kids all stood and stared at these and this. That was classic.
But when he went back to Auckland this last year, a few months ago, he went to the school.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I remember you. You're the guy with the red hair or something." Remember? It
Well,
was older.
The teacher who showed me around recognised us. I think he actually got me mixed up with my brother.
But both of them were very alike, and they
Yeah.
had the, and the eldest boy has got a lighter ginger, you know, like more of a blonde, like Marcus kids.
That's the Irish coming out.
Yeah,
Huh?
but you wouldn't think, you know, that I have that colour hair.
So this photo here is of your mum and dad and you and your sister?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
That was taken within the house, you see outside.
Yep, very good. So you're showing me some photos here. This would be a really good one.
Greg, you do it?
That one there would be of your granddad. That's fantastic.
Heel out, Greg. Let's see if I can find that letter. No, he's got a blue folder.
Oh, marvellous. You've got quite a history.
Yeah, well, some of this, even like today, I've heard some stuff which I've never heard before. So and I thought I'd heard all of it. And you don't want the wedding photos now.
No, I'll have to come back and do that. I'm doing that stuff. They'll be exhausted this afternoon with my bed.
Yeah, they've definitely morning season. That's why I thought 9 would be good because you're after lunchtime. Okay, so.
They'll be exhausted, so this is probably enough. Who's this person, huh? Who is that?
I have a feeling that the American fellow must have married her, and she looks, you know, a bit like an Irish.
Yeah. And this group of people here?
Oh, my father?
Yeah.
No, there's my father.
Yeah.
That's his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
That's my granddad, and those are just people that they knew.
If there's a photo here you want to include, let me know. What about this one here? We have some interesting ones.
Oh, God. That's my mother there.
Mm-hmm.
Now he and she were married. Oh, there's my father. That's his cousin Oscar, and that's his wife. She was English, from England.
See, that one's a fairly interesting photo too. Greg, what do you think about this one?
This is the one I wanted to put in. Look,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
So,
when he was young.
oh yeah.
No, I forgot all about it. In fact, there's a whole lot of stuff over here that he just put. See, he put that little time in England and all that.
Oh, the one that made it
Before I met him.
Do
You remember this one?
No, I haven't seen that photo.
Yeah. I thought that would be a good one.
That is a good
Look
one.
how nice Anne looks.
Yeah,
That's his
it does look
family.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, that's later on Mount Franz Joseph.
Oh, you're only up to 1941.
I told you this is going to take a
Take
while.
ages.
And it's like I said, we may decide, okay, we'll just start for century. I reckon we should put that photo in. Because that shows.
As long as you know all the.
I just got to get the names of that photo. I know the other ones, and not the other ones. That
I don't
one.
know any of them in this photo.
Let's do a quick time.
Oh, they're just, I think one is my father's
So that's your
father there.
and that's your
Mother.
Okay, your mum is there.
Now, these two, that's my father's first cousin, and that's his English wife, Oscar. And these two people are my godfather and godmother. And he was a rich, very rich man. He had his own business. Barber, that's right.
So what I might say is a picture of your mum and dad, godfather and godmother,
Cousin.
and the rest are cousins.
Yeah. And that's my father's sister, and she was married to him. Yeah. Now he was English, George Harrison Hyde. But their marriage didn't last. That's the eldest London brother, and my grandfather was next. This is the New Zealand aunt.
Did I get that photo?
You got something,
Yeah.
yeah.
We got something.
With the father and all that.
And what was this
Oh,
photo?
just that's my clan of my mother's father, Graham. So I was very proud of my Graham. See? You didn't know that, did you, Greg?
Well, I knew all this, but I didn't really forget about it. What about all some of these?
No, that's from his
We
son.
got one of my dad's mum.
No.
Well, see if you get a proper one, smaller one. See here with the bird and
I think we should just pick. Like, I think it was very nice that he was going to pick this one.
no, I think he's got to go here. Sure.
St. Joseph's College. And what's that photo of that?
What's the St. Joseph's?
What's that photo?
That's our house.
Excellent.
Yeah, but I don't know who's some sort of aunt or friend or something like that.
Okay, so maybe it's not the one put in because I don't know more.
Yeah, I know her name. Enid. Enid. She could even be my father's cousin for all I know. Oh look, Gregory.
You're swamping well done with too much.
No, I'm just showing you the picture.
So that would have been Pete's
Yeah,
bike in the back of one of
yeah. I think that one's significant because he looks a lot like my son.
Who? Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you can kind of see if Dan's kids look like him, you'll be able to see where the look comes from. Like there's a look of someone like your grandfather or then if you think, geez, that looks a little bit
Look at that fat chops there.
so,
No, that grandfather photo looks a bit like me.
well, someone I thought, geez, you can see a resemblance. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Oops.